All right, we're back for another show of Biz Builders, and today I've got Jim Bennett with me. How's it going, Jim?
Hey, doing great. You're doing great.
Hey, thanks for joining me. Kind of anxious to learn more about your journey and business just from talking to one of your associates. So, start off, just kind of give us a little bit of your background, how you got your career started up to where you're at now.
Yeah, I love to do that. So I started my career out of college with Deloitte in Los Angeles. And, my parents are good people, but my mother was a teacher, my father's a farmer, and they didn't really give me any good advice where to go to school. So I really felt fortunate. I went to Utah State University and I'd met my wife. She was from the Los Angeles area, and she wanted to be closer to home, met her at school. And so we headed there, and I was fortunate and got that job. So I just thought it'd be good to become a CPA and I could make a living and all of that stuff. Well, so I spent nearly 5 years at Deloitte, and it's a really great training ground, but it's tough. It's a tough place to be. And I did audits. So I didn't do taxes. I did audits, became a CPA, and got recruited to Utah, and thought, I'll start at this controller job. It's a good sized company, and I'll work my way into a nice CFO job over the next 5 or 8 years. Well, Andrew, if I took a job, they sold the business. So I did. It happened to me 4 or 5 times. And so over about 6 years or something. Anyway, one night I was driving home and called my wife, and I said, I think I'm going to look for clients. And she's, we had kids and stuff at this point, and she was really supportive. And she said, that's a terrible idea. You're an accountant. How are you going to find any clients? You don't know how to sell anything. And so that was good. That put me back on my heels. And so it slowed me down like 6 months, 7 months. And so then I wrote a few business plans and was like, well, maybe there's something else I should do. And I kept coming back to this part-time CFO, part-time accounting help idea. And so that was summer of 2005. And so I quit the last job I had. And here I am. And today I have 30 offices and like 270 or 80 employees.
So how did you, when I think of like CPA, CFOs, I'm thinking not huge risk takers, more like, by the book, like smart guys. So how did you kind of get past that? Because that is a risky thing to go out on your own.
Dude, honestly, Andrew, I was uptight. Well, I'm probably a little tight anyway because I'm a CPA, but I was super uptight. I was scared to death. Like, I would go into every deal like this is the last deal of my life. And I think the good thing that saved me is I realized from all the business experience I had that if I couldn't figure out sales, then I probably could make a living, but it wasn't going to be much more than that. And so the entire time I've been really obsessed with how to sell. So I read like crazy. I made about 1 million mistakes in sales meetings. If you can screw it up in a sales meeting, give me a call because I can tell you what not to say. So,
that's awesome. Like, what kind of pushed you to actually start, your own business? It sounds like you had some pretty good level positions where you were probably making, decent salaries and probably had some good security. Was there anything that really kind of was pushing you that way?
Well, I kept having bad luck. They would put the business up for sale. And, it wasn't like they sold it next week. They'd sell it over 12, 18 months.
Right.
And it was a good experience. I learned a lot. You work a lot around transactions. I didn't ever get I got little tiny hits, a little bit of equity, a bonus, nothing that was like, oh, this is going to make my life,
Right.
And I think it was that I always wanted to do my own thing. So somewhere deep down, I guess I've got some wires crossed that, between being an accountant
Right.
and being an entrepreneur, I guess the wiring screwed up. And anyway, I can't imagine now doing anything else.
What kind of challenges did you face that like kind of blindsided you? You weren't even thinking about that when you launched that business to start with.
So I'll give you an example. So so about a month in, I hired a part-time person, and she had worked for me before. And so I go from, summer of '05 to about Christmas time, and I rounded up a couple more jobs. And she said to me, "I don't want to split jobs. I just want to do this." And so she went and quit her job, and I was like, "Oh gosh, don't quit your job. I don't know if I can pay you." And but it worked out fine. And then we go till about March or April, and our biggest client called on a Tuesday night and said, "Don't come back tomorrow." And I was like, "What do you mean? Did we do something wrong?" He goes, "No. We were working for the CFO. That's who we reported to at a big company." And he said, "No, the CEO just found out how much I paid you guys over the last 4 months and said you can't come back." And so literally, dude, I lost 40% of my revenue on a Tuesday night.
One call. Wow.
And, I've got kids at home. I've got her and her family. She had several kids. And I'm just like, I don't want to use inappropriate metaphors.
It wasn't good.
Pretty freaked out. And, what do you do? And what I started to learn is that you've got to sell all the time. It's just got to be a consistent effort, and then you won't get blindsided. And I'm not going to say we don't have things happen like that now. It just doesn't matter as much when you serve 600 companies.
Yeah, no, that's a big plus. So how were you able to kind of scale the company from, basically you and a part-time person up to, now you have like 20, 30 plus locations?
Yeah. So, what's funny? I negotiated with my wife. It's funny to say you're negotiating.
You always have to negotiate with the wife. What do you mean?
So I said to her, if I can bring home my old salary, will you just be okay with that? And it wasn't that simple. It took a few rounds of negotiation, but finally she said, "Okay, because that means me and the kids are okay." And then I said, "Because I'm going to take the other money and I want to grow." And I didn't ever raise money. Right. I just did with that. And so that's what I did. I would just take extra profits. I built up a little reserve. So if I had a bad collections week or month, I could still be okay. And I would take anything above this little reserve and I would go hire the next employee. And it's chicken and egg, man, because you're like, should I hire this next person? Because I don't have enough
right.
I don't have work for them. And how am I going to get that work? And they're going to want to be paid. And it's anyway, but that's what I did. And then when I started to open offices, it was much the same approach. It was like, I need to set aside this much cash to open the city. And at first it was just guessing. Now I have a pretty good idea. And
so how many cities are you in now?
I think we're in 30 cities.
Nice. So kind of tell me like more about what you guys do exactly. Who's your ideal client, and what services do you offer?
Oh, thanks, man. So we do part-time CFOs, part-time controllers, staff accountants, and we even do bookkeeping. So really anything on the accounting or finance side of a business that you don't want to hire a full-time person, we can do it. And we're very conscious of how to fit that together with a budget or whatever. So anything you would consider a CFO doing, a controller doing, even the bookkeeping. So we really have two clients. Our first client is from almost startup, but once you get big enough to start to feel some pain around your accounting, like paying like I should be at home with my loved ones, not doing accounting at midnight or Sunday afternoon.
I hate QuickBooks.
I hate QuickBooks. Then maybe bookkeeping will fit. But if you're doing 3, 5, 10 million, then you realize that your office manager might be in over their head, or heaven forbid they quit, then we can come in with a part-time controller. If you're going to raise money, a part-time CFO is good. If you're doing some things with your bank, if you're putting in a new system, if you got behind, you just need to catch up, or maybe you need some process and procedure around month end. So it fits really good, from young companies to about 50 million in revenue for that part-time stuff. And then we take those same employees, CFOs and controllers, and we use them on large company projects. Large companies will outsource projects and they'll say, hey, we need 3 people for 6 months to do this project. And so we do that. So those are really our 2 main clients. And then we do have clients that just come in for bookkeeping, but that's a much smaller segment of what we do.
Now, do you guys go on site, or is this all done from your offices, just, virtually?
Yeah,
and it might be different now because of COVID, but.
So that's right. So pre-COVID, we were like 98% of the work was on site at the company location. Here we are mid-September now. We're about 40% on site, and the rest is remote. And I think it's probably going to stay like that going forward.
So now that you've got roughly 30 locations, how many employees, or how does it work? Because I saw it said that you guys aren't a franchise. Is it kind of like partnerships with local people in the markets, or?
So it's a partnership, and if you run a city, then we have 2 titles. You can be a partner or a market president. You kind of have the same responsibility, a little different in risk and upside. But it's not a franchise. We act like a franchise. I mean, in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
We've centralized a lot of things that we don't need out in the field offices. So field offices should be focused on selling and doing the work, execution. And corporate, that's where we have accounting, HR, payroll, training, legal, a data team, recruiting team, call center team. I'm sure I left people out, but that's a training team. So that's where that's all at. Marketing is all of it. So all that's centralized.
That definitely helps keep those costs down and give you that growth. Yeah. What is your day-to-day like now? I mean, you're not still in the weeds of everything, or are you?
I've been in the weeds up until just recently. So a couple of years ago, my COO left and I brought in another person to be the chief operating officer. That person is now the president, and he takes care of a lot of details. It's kind of nice because I get to do things I enjoy. I like working on training. I really like being on the sales side. And then I still get the legal problems.
Right.
So usually if there's a problem that makes its way to my desk, it's super cool. It's like the work.
It's like, that's cool though, that the sales you enjoy now. I mean, because a lot of times, the financial or the CPAs are not, they don't like the sales side of things. They're into the numbers and,
so I have 34 or 35 salespeople full time. And so then if you think about that, it allows us to play to strengths. So the salespeople go source the jobs. And then we have a salesperson and an accountant, finance person in the meeting. So we can show them the solution, the prospect. And that's where it starts to work together. And yeah, it's been really cool. And I'm really into training. I think training is a key to scale. I think training is a key to culture. So we've written a ton of training.
So what's the ultimate goal then that you have for the company? I mean, how big are you looking to scale it? And
so we're at, I think we're around 250 full-time. I think there's about 280 because we do have some contractors and we do have some part-time people that are, we start people part-time and then they transition over a couple months to full-time. I think, I think over the next 4 or 5 years, we could double in size,
Wow.
which that's a lot of growth.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's going to, make sure that those processes and procedures are all streamlined and smooth.
Well, and if I was in hindsight, Andrew, if I was going to give somebody advice that's maybe just getting maybe a year in, I would just say really try to build processes and procedures around everything you do, and try to get what's in your head that's worked out on paper, because then you can show it to somebody else and you can teach
Yeah.
them smiling.
That has been one of the toughest things for me, I think, in my career. I'm 41. I've pretty much been full-time entrepreneur since I was 19, and getting what's in here down, that I still need to work on that better. But I agree. What you need to be able to scale anything. Um,
I waited
so
I waited far too long, Andrew, to do that. If I'd have started to say, "Hey, this worked. Let's spend a little time and document it, and how could we show somebody else how to do it?" If I'd have started on that like 5 years sooner, we would already be twice as big.
now, have you, as you're building this successful business, have you looked at other opportunities during that time? Or have you been like razor focused on, now CFO?
I'm probably 90% razor focused on now CFO. There's been a few ideas that have come about. So for instance, we've just taken on a couple of training engagements where we're helping other companies build their training, and just to see what that would be like. And so that's interesting, and we're learning a lot, and we're get to help someone else. And it's kind of getting this magic out of the CEO's head. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool. It's a cool process.
Yeah, I would think. And I mean, I know for myself, I've always had kind of those small businesses. I mean, I'd say on the big side, you're talking a dozen, 2 dozen full-time people for me. In professional sports, there's a lot of part-time people, and so it adds up. But that has never been my strength, the financial side. That's always been because I'm more of that sales and marketing mindset, and QuickBooks doesn't like me. So I make my wife do that side of it. And she works with our CPAs and, people that help us.
I think the key to success is knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses. And a weakness could be just, I'm not interested. So a lot of now CFO and outsourcing is really to allow owners, CEOs, entrepreneurs like you to play to their strengths, and we can supply the data. We can oversee the accounting department. There's so many things we can do, help you with KPIs, that kind of thing, that you probably don't want to do, but yeah, you need the information so you can make better decisions. And that's our whole goal is to create financial visibility. And
Yeah.
we define that as having relevant, timely, insightful information, and accuracy too. So if you've got relevant, timely, accurate, insightful information, you can take your gut feel and marry those together, and then you get far better decisions.
I used to always get too hung up on like the cost. Okay, what's my cost to have that service? And instead of looking at it as it's an investment so that I can maximize what I do really well. And once I was able to kind of do that, I've been able to see more success. So I know that that's probably, a struggle for some new entrepreneurs or people coming out there. But I mean, this kind of service, if you're not a financial person, for me, why am I going to waste the time on that when I can get a professional for, maybe a portion of what it would cost me to hire somebody, and I have that peace of mind, so
Yeah,
I can go out and grow the
that's
business.
exactly right. I mean, look, if we were just doing even like bookkeeping for a new business, and let's say it's growing fast, so it takes 2 or 3 hours a week. My guess is you take a good entrepreneur, they could go add a sale every week in that 2 or 3 hours, and
Exactly.
2 or 3 hours becomes like 20 minutes to review this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And now it's not painful. It's like, oh, now I can see it.
And if it takes me 3 hours, it's probably taking you guys 20 minutes to 30 minutes, because, it's what you guys do. So I definitely, see the value. So you do work with some startups, with some small companies,
Oh yeah.
and, all the way up to, 50 million-ish. So, I mean, you got good size. Do you guys do payroll services and things like that as well? Or is it more on the P&L type?
A little bit of payroll. Usually we just go ahead and outsource that. There's a lot of companies that do that for very, very little.
Yeah.
But we'll help gather up the information, push it over. It's really more focused on the value add of helping you not only get your numbers, but can we analyze them? What do they mean? How can they help us?
If you could go back now and tell yourself, give yourself some advice before you took that plunge into business ownership, what would you kind of tell yourself?
That's a great question. The funny thing is, I was 36 when I started the business, and I wish I'd have started 5 years sooner. But at the same time, I probably needed that 5 years of experience to be able to make it happen. So I would say jump in. Don't wait, because if you really want to run a business or have your own business, you can sit in a crappy job for far too long and be unhappy. And although being business owners, Andrew, it can be a lot more scary, right? Because it's not a steady check or anything. But really look at what makes you happy. I think that's a big piece of this. And if you build a $300,000 business that takes care of you, or you build a $300 million business because that's how you're wired, it'll be a great ride. I can't imagine doing anything else the last 15 years that I could have learned more at.
Right. Well, and the thing is, I think a lot of people get caught up on, man, I don't know this or that. And to be honest, the only way you're going to know most of the time is to get out there and force yourself to figure it out. I mean, I know I've fallen on my face a couple times over the last 20 years, and, but if I hadn't gone out and just taken that plunge, there's just some stuff you're not going to learn until you get into it.
Right.
And that's pretty much any industry.
And you can create some safety. We do this a lot for people where it's like, look, build a little bit of reserve. Don't just spend everything. Let's pay some taxes, build a reserve. Let's build a safety net so that we have a little bit of a cushion fall if we do make a mistake. And Andrew, I don't want anybody to think this has been easy. And I've made a lot of mistakes. Yeah. But that little cash reserve, and over the years, I've had to grow that cash reserve quite a bit. That cash reserve just really softens the fall, cushions the fall when you make a mistake. And yeah, then you can get back up, dust yourself off, and go at it again.
So before 2005, how long had this kind of been in your head that, it's something that you're potentially interested in? I mean, was this at a younger age, or was this kind of something after you've gone through a few of those transitions that really got you thinking about it?
Well, if you'd sat me down as a senior in high school, I'd have told you I was going to be a stockbroker and then start a business. And I never got to the stockbroker. So it was there. I always wanted to be in business. My father being a farmer, that's just like a small business, and yep. Getting to see that, and there's definitely ups and downs, but I always wanted to do it. So if you've got an inkling to do it, you probably ought to start to test the waters.
Yeah. How has COVID affected your operation?
So we went through about 4 months of a slowdown. We lost about, lost isn't the right word. We had a lot of companies just put us on hold. Mm-hmm. And so we were down about 20%. And that takes all the fun out of it, because now you're in your reserves, to pay some bills. But, we're starting to see things come back a little bit. So hopefully the whole economy will come back. I mean, everyone should be realistic. We're in a recession. They just haven't said officially we're in a recession. And, but there's a lot of good signs out there. It doesn't need to be a deep recession, and I hope it won't be.
I was kind of talking to some other people the other day. It was on the sports side. And, I really think that a lot of professional sports teams are going to start outsourcing a lot more things like sales and marketing and ticket sales. And do you think, that will happen now because of COVID, where, a lot of companies, they shrank, they're getting very lean. Do you think this is like a good opportunity for you guys to now kind of come out there and say, hey, here's another solution instead of fully staffing back up? If you only staff up half, we can fill the other half and save you some money.
Yeah, I don't think it's just in accounting. I think it's across lots of industries. I think you're going to see a lot of specialization because you can drive costs down. So payroll is a good example. ADP processes what 1/5 of the checks in America or something, and they are very good at it. They're very efficient, and it's less, and and yet they have good margin. And so I think we can see lots and lots of processes, things happen like that. And so I'm hoping it'll boost us, and I think you'll see a lot of it, just like you were talking about.
So tell everyone how they can learn more about you guys.
Yeah, so NowCFO.com is the easiest way. There's an 800 number on there. And, we do a lot of probably 150 meetings a week where we just spend some time at a whiteboard. I got a whiteboard right here. And we just walk through some of the things you might need or want as your company grows. And if nothing else, you'll learn a lot. And we're happy to do that. My partners and I, the market presidents, we can walk you through and say, this is what bigger companies do. Would this benefit your company at its current stage? And if the answer is no, it doesn't benefit it, you'll still learn a lot. And it'll be really, really a great meeting. It takes 30 minutes. And yeah, we like doing it. I mean, our goal, Andrew, is really to lift everyone, lift our clients towards their success, and to lift the people that work at Now CFO so that they're better in their career, however that turns out. And I'm not just on a soapbox saying that. When you can come around to that and you have that kind of goal, man, you're a lot happier. You drive home at night feeling like you've done something that was worth doing, and the money will.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and it's cool to, to help these businesses it's definitely rewarding. And especially for me, I always loved the startup phase of businesses. So that's why I'm looking at getting into more stuff where I can help people take that leap, because I know how challenging it is, but I know how rewarding it can be. So I think it's really cool what you guys are doing. It's kind of similar, except I'm not a financial guy. So
Well, every business has a lot of needs, and whether you're in marketing or legal or sales or product or design, engineering, there's just so many things that businesses need. And we can really provide each other a lot of lift, create a lot of commerce, and help each other win.
Yep. I saw on your website too, it looked like, for your growth plans, you have some open positions, or you will in the near future. So if people are out there, check out that, because there's stuff all over the country, it looked like, at your different offices. So
Yeah,
it'll be fun to kind of watch that growth over the next few years. I know you got some offices close to me. I'm in Orlando. So, if you come visit this office, make sure you hit me up. So we can have some lunch. But I appreciate you joining me. It was good chatting with you. Real excited to kind of follow your journey.
Well, Andrew, thank you. I'm honored to be a guest, and yeah, really appreciate you putting this together.